To get in there with him, I'd love to have a brawl for 5 rounds. As he said, him versus Michael Johnson, how he introduced himself to the UFC, I'd love to have a fight like that.
I'm gonna fuck this up for everybody, and there's gonna be no Paddy and Ilya. I'm gonna do the same thing I did for that fight, and then I'm gonna fight Ilya.
Right now is Paddy versus Justin. First of all, Paddy's got to win that fight against Justin Gaethje. If he does, he becomes the interim champion of the world.
The fight world just exploded. Paddy Pimblett stepped onto that press conference stage and delivered what might be the most chilling psychological warfare we've seen in years. This wasn't your typical trash talk session where fighters throw around empty threats for the cameras. From the moment Paddy's eyes locked onto Justin Gaethje, something shifted in the room. You could feel the tension. This was a predator sizing up his prey, calculating every weakness, every opening. Paddy wasn't just confident, he was terrifyingly calm as he dismantled Cerrone's entire reputation piece by piece. He mocked Justin's legendary knockout power, laughed at the striking that's put so many fighters to sleep, and then delivered a promise that sent chills through everyone watching. "You think you're tough?" Paddy sneered, leaning forward with that Liverpool accent cutting through the silence. "I'll break your rhythm, I'll shatter your legs, and honestly, I'm going to make this the easiest night of my entire career." But here's what made it truly terrifying, the way he said it. No emotion, no anger, just cold, calculated certainty. This wasn't bravado. This was a man who'd already visualized exactly how he was going to destroy one of the most dangerous strikers in the lightweight division.
I'm not going to make that stupid mistake James Vick did and call him Homer Simpson and get knocked the fuck out.
And here's where it gets absolutely wild. Even Justin Gaethje himself, the human highlight reel who's never backed down from anyone, had to acknowledge what he's walking into. Behind closed doors, sources are saying Justin's team is genuinely concerned about what Paddy brings to this fight. We're talking about a guy who's built his entire reputation on being the most violent, aggressive striker in the division. And for the first time in years, he's facing someone who's not intimidated by that reputation. Paddy isn't just planning to fight Justin, he's planning to humiliate him. Every single mistake Justin makes, every moment of hesitation, every slight opening in his guard, Paddy's going to punish it without mercy. The game plan isn't just to win, it's to make an example out of one of the sport's most feared killers. And you know what's really got people talking? The way Paddy's breaking down Justin's style. He's identified the patterns, the habits, the defensive gaps that other fighters have been too scared or too hurt to exploit. By the time that final bell rings, we could be looking at a completely different landscape in the lightweight division. Justin Gaethje, the man who's never been broken, could be left wondering what the hell just hit him.
Yeah, no, Paddy Pimblett, I mean, this guy's got a ton of momentum, you know, a ton of confidence, and those are two variables that are tough to beat. I'm gonna have to really steal that momentum early and stay in my shell. You know, I know this kid's gonna be trying to kill me, and I know he's gonna make mistakes, so I have to be ready to take advantage of those mistakes and fight a perfect fight. At the highest level, it's who makes mistakes first, and I'm gonna need to.
But wait, it gets even crazier. Paddy's not just talking a big game, he's laid out a complete blueprint for destruction that has analysts and former champions genuinely worried for Justin's safety. His strategy is brutal in its simplicity, but devastating in its execution. Attack every single opening with surgical precision, dismantle those legendary legs with relentless, bone-jarring kicks, and punish every defensive lapse with extreme prejudice. When they're standing, Paddy wants to break that signature Gaethje rhythm that's carried him through wars with Tony Ferguson, Donald Cerrone, and Michael Chandler. He studied the tape, identified the timing, and he knows exactly when Justin likes to throw those crushing leg kicks and haymaker punches. But here's the kicker. If this fight hits the ground, Paddy's promising a swift, merciless finish that will leave absolutely no doubt about who the superior fighter is. We're talking about a grappling specialist who's already visualized exactly how he's going to submit one of the most dangerous strikers on the planet. Justin isn't just walking into a fight, he's walking straight into a perfectly orchestrated storm, and Paddy Gaethje is the terrifying force at its center.
I think it'll be quite poetic if I end up finishing him with leg kicks, like, which I can see he doesn't really throw his anymore. Stop throwing, I'm going to damage his calf, and if it does go to the ground, it'll be over even faster. Beat him to the punch on the feet, ruin his legs with.
Now here's something nobody's talking about. The psychological warfare happening behind the scenes is absolutely next level. Ilia Topuria's backing of Paddy isn't just casual support from a fellow fighter. This is strategic endorsement from the featherweight champion who understands exactly what it takes to break elite competition. Topuria genuinely believes that Paddy's sky-high confidence and incredible fight IQ can completely unravel Gaethje's usual relentless pressure style. But get this, UFC insiders are whispering that this endorsement is actually part of a bigger political game happening within the organization. Think about it. Topuria knows that if Paddy destroys Gaethje, it completely reshuffles the lightweight title picture and potentially sets up massive money fights down the road. These aren't just empty words being thrown around for social media likes. This is brilliant psychological warfare designed to plant seeds of doubt in Justin's veteran swagger right before the biggest fight of Paddy's career. The experts keep pointing to Gaethje's legendary striking and those bone-crushing leg kicks, but they're completely overlooking the mental aspect of this game. When you have elite fighters publicly questioning your ability to handle an unproven opponent, that's when the real damage starts happening inside your head.
He's going to beat Justin Gaethje.
Easy.
Wow. Really easy?
Yeah, easy.
Really easy?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a crazy thing to say because Justin Gaethje's a fucking animal.
Yeah, but he doesn't know how to grapple. And Paddy knows.
But he's a Division I wrestler. He knows how to grapple. You don't think he knows how to grapple? He just chooses not to. He chooses to stand and fight.
I don't think so. Did you ever saw him submitting someone?
I don't believe he's ever submitted someone, but I think that's because he likes to just crush people. He likes to bang it out.
Hold up, because Sean O'Malley just dropped some truth bombs that have completely changed how people are viewing this matchup. O'Malley definitely leans towards Paddy, but he's not sugarcoating the reality of what Justin Gaethje brings to this fight. He straight up acknowledges that Justin is an absolute beast who survived wars that would have ended most fighters' careers. One wrong left hook from Gaethje could instantly end the night for anyone, and O'Malley knows this better than most. But here's what's got everyone's attention. O'Malley is praising Paddy's incredible versatility, calling him a true artisan of combat, someone who can adapt on the fly and actually survive the kind of violent storm that Gaethje brings to every single fight. The warning from O'Malley is crystal clear and absolutely chilling. Paddy possesses multiple distinct ways to win this fight, and if Justin even dares to underestimate the Liverpool native, he might leave that cage a beaten, confused, and utterly shocked fighter. We're talking about a bantamweight champion who's faced elite competition telling the world that Paddy Pimblett has the tools to dismantle one of the most feared lightweights on the planet. That's not just analysis, that's a warning.
I don't know, Jeff. Kind of leaning towards Paddy. But the way he does get hit with left hooks, he looks so good against Michael Chandler. Paddy's got a lot of ways to win.
He's a scouser.
He's a scouser. Scousers don't get knocked out, you mushroom.
He KO'd Dustin with a head kick too.
But listen to this part. Renato Moicano isn't just offering casual commentary. He's echoing what countless analysts and hardcore fans are questioning about this entire matchup. And it's absolutely fascinating. The Brazilian consistently highlights Gaethje's incredibly high-volume striking and relentless output, suggesting it could potentially tear through Paddy's defenses like tissue paper. But Moicano insists with unwavering conviction that if Justin doesn't manage to stop Paddy early in the fight, he's going to find himself completely overwhelmed by a pace and pressure he's never experienced before. Now that's a bold statement considering we're talking about a fighter whose legendary leg kick pressure and striking has created such a dangerous, intricate web that's left former champions battered and unable to continue. But here's what's really wild about Moicano's analysis. He's suggesting that Gaethje's biggest strength, that relentless forward pressure, could actually become his downfall against a fighter as tactically diverse as Paddy. If Justin can't get the early finish, he might find himself dragged into deep waters where his cardio and defensive wrestling could be exposed by someone who's prepared for a long, grueling battle.
A tough matchup, you know? Yeah. I think 5 rounds. This is the common take. Everybody gonna say that, not only me, but if Justin Gaethje doesn't stop him on the beginning, he's going to lose. I think everybody thinks like that. And I think Paddy Pimblett will beat Justin Gaethje.
And get this, Paul Felder's recent praise for Paddy's conditioning and raw strength comes with some serious implications that nobody's really talking about. Felder clearly sees a younger, hungrier fighter in Paddy, someone who's constantly evolving and improving with each performance, while subtly hinting that Justin's absolute best years might be creeping behind him. Now, analysts will quickly point out that Gaethje's incredible volume and devastating power are definitely going to punish any mistakes Paddy makes. But Felder is painting a completely different picture. He sees Paddy as this rapidly evolving force, someone who's ready to exploit every single defensive gap in Gaethje's game and turn all the crowd hype into a very real, very tactical demolition inside the octagon. What's really interesting about Felder's analysis is the timeline aspect. He's suggesting that we might be witnessing a changing of the guard moment, where the old-school violence and aggression gets systematically dismantled by new-school technique and preparation. If Felder's right, this fight isn't just about who wins, it's about which era of lightweight fighting survives moving forward.
Whereas I don't think Gaethje will do that. Do I think Paddy can win? 100%. I think this kid is doing it right, man. He is constantly seemingly like he's working on his strength and conditioning. He's always looking bigger and stronger every time that we see him inside of that kid.
Here's where things get absolutely insane. Chael Sonnen isn't just reminiscing about the old days or offering casual predictions. He's firing direct shots at Gaethje while completely reshaping the narrative surrounding Paddy's chances, and it's brutal. For years, Sonnen openly dismissed Paddy as a regional-level fighter who was getting favorable matchmaking from the UFC. But now, in a stunning pivot that has the MMA world buzzing, he's questioning Gaethje's credibility and even casting doubt about that alleged staph infection that Justin publicly denied. Moicanos is subtly suggesting that any potential cover-up might actually be far more problematic than the original issue, and he's using it to frame Gaethje as vulnerable, almost fragile going into this fight. Meanwhile, he's positioning Paddy as this unpredictable, chaotic force who's ready to expose every single crack in Justin's armor. This kind of commentary from someone as influential as Sonnen drastically shifts the psychological pressure onto Justin's shoulders. We're talking about one of MMA's most respected analysts essentially saying that the Emperor has no clothes, and it's creating controversy that's extending way beyond just fight predictions.
Can he knock out Paddy the Baddy? I gotta tell you, I don't think... I've got to know Paddy over the years. And before I knew him, when I stereotyped him and painted him with a brush, he was a regional fighter with a funny haircut, and he was pretty good on the mic. And you're going to be able to sell some tickets.
Now check this out. Ciryl Gane just delivered an absolutely brutal and honest breakdown that's got everyone talking, and it perfectly captures the complexity of this matchup. Gane readily acknowledges Paddy Pimblett's undeniable craft and incredibly diverse skill set, but he absolutely doesn't shy away from warning that Justin Gaethje brings a completely different level of violence and striking pressure that could utterly overwhelm Paddy if he doesn't handle it with absolute perfection. Here's what's fascinating about Gane's analysis. He's highlighting Gaethje's offensive output and takedown defense as genuinely elite, world-class even. But he's also noting that Justin's grappling and ground game have clear, exploitable holes that elite grapplers have consistently exposed throughout his career. If Paddy can manage to drag this fight into frantic scrambles and establish any kind of control on the ground, he might genuinely surprise Gaethje and the entire MMA world. However, if this battle stays standing and Gaethje starts landing his signature volume strikes and those devastating leg kicks, Paddy could find himself in very serious trouble very quickly. Gane isn't just talking here. He's dissecting a monumental stylistic clash that could define both fighters' careers moving forward.
Paddy Pimblett's crafty. He's a crafty fighter. He's got a very strong skill set. He's not afraid to fight off of his back. He doesn't wrestle all that well, but he uses his length well in terms of his kicks. But I just think the amount of violence that Justin Gaethje brings to the fight is going to be too much for Paddy. I mean, we saw what Paddy did against Jared Gordon, and a lot of people think he lost that fight. And Justin Gaethje is not Jared Gordon.
But here's the tactical breakdown that has everyone's attention. Dan Hardy weighs in with an incredibly sharp strategic edge, offering what essentially amounts to a detailed roadmap for how this fight plays out. Hardy clearly sees Gaethje as a fighter who can absolutely get the job done, but only if he presses Paddy relentlessly from the opening bell and completely closes down the cage space. The strategy Hardy outlines would force exchanges where Gaethje's powerful, dominant striking advantage would be most devastatingly effective. Expert previews consistently highlight Gaethje's striking volume and suffocating pressure as the real danger, particularly as long as he manages to keep this fight upright and effectively negates Paddy's grappling sequences. But here's what makes Hardy's analysis so compelling. He's essentially saying that if Justin can't implement this game plan perfectly, if he gives Paddy any breathing room or allows the fight to develop into the kind of chaotic scrambles where technique matters more than power, then we could be looking at a massive upset. If Justin finds his rhythm early and punishes Paddy with those booming, concussive strikes and oppressive cage pressure, he could silence all the growing hype surrounding Paddy's rapid rise to stardom.
Look, I think Gaethje can absolutely get it done, you know, and the ways that I've explained is, in my mind, the best way for him to do it, to close the cage down. And even if it takes a couple of rounds for Paddy to kind of overmove himself a little bit, if Gaethje's patient and he finds his opportunity, we know that he can knock.
And here's a detail that changes everything. Neil Magny adds this incredibly realistic analytical twist that exposes a massive hole in Gaethje's resume. He points out something crucial that most analysts have completely overlooked. Gaethje has never truly faced elite-level grapplers in his UFC career, aside from his devastating losses to Khabib Nurmagomedov and Charles Oliveira. This means Paddy's unpredictable ground game could pose some incredibly uncomfortable problems if he manages to create genuine takedown opportunities or drag Justin into scrambling situations. While pundits acknowledge that Gaethje's takedown defense and scrambling abilities are undeniably strong, his submission defense and overall ground control are simply not world-class level. This detail implies that a crafty, technical grappler like Paddy could definitely exploit those gaps and create absolute chaos on the mat. Magny's perspective feeds perfectly into a narrative that's been building. Justin is dangerous and violent standing up, no question about it. But Paddy's unorthodox grappling and submission game might just be the wild card that turns this fight into a stunning upset if Gaethje can't keep him at striking distance for 5 full rounds.
Yeah, I would probably do the same, just because if you look at Justin's fights, he's never really fought good grapplers and performed well. I'm trying to think if he's fought grapplers, but he hasn't really. Besides Khabib and Charles, he's never fought really good grapplers. So I could see why they would put him as an underdog. He's older.
Now listen to what Colby Covington just said, because it's absolutely chilling. In his typical no-nonsense fashion, Covington doesn't sugarcoat the reality of this matchup. He bluntly states that Justin Gaethje is still a tough, relentless dog who's going to throw absolutely everything he has at Paddy Pimblett from the opening bell. But Covington adds a layer of pressure that nobody else is talking about. He's warning that this could genuinely be Justin's last fight if he loses, creating a high-stakes scenario that could make an already dangerous fighter absolutely desperate. Paddy typically excels at controlling wrestling exchanges, getting opponents to the mat, and using submission threats to open up his striking opportunities. But Covington, with his insider knowledge of elite competition, hints that Justin's raw knockout power and vast experience in wars could test Paddy in ways he has simply never encountered before. While some analysts are suggesting this fight is practically handed to Paddy on a silver platter, Covington masterfully frames it as a dangerous, career-defining challenge. He's powerfully reminding everyone that a desperate Justin Gaethje is the most dangerous version of an already terrifying fighter, and that could spell disaster for anyone not prepared for that level of violence.
You know, I think Justin's still a tough dog, and he's going to come out there and give his all, and he doesn't want to lose this fight. This could be his last fight if he loses. So, you know, I think he's going to put Paddy to the test, and, you know, Paddy, you know, usually has to control the wrestling aspect, put guys to the ground to get his submission and to get his striking game working. So, you know, I don't know. Justin's shot on one hand, they're trying to give him an easy win on a silver platter.
Here's where the reality check comes in. Dan Hooker, always a straight shooter who doesn't get caught up in hype, directly challenges the widespread notion that Paddy is the undeniable favorite in this matchup. Hooker points out Colby's incredibly sharp takedown defense, and then crucially questions whether Paddy has truly faced elite fighters who are currently in their prime and operating at championship level. This is a massive point that most analysts are completely ignoring. Hooker suggests that while this represents a career-defining opportunity for Paddy, victory absolutely won't be handed to him on a silver platter just because he's the younger, hungrier fighter. He emphasizes the critical need for Paddy to be smart, to constantly mix up his approach, and most importantly, to adapt on the fly to whatever Gaethje throws at him. Justin remains a seasoned, violently competitive fighter who's perfectly capable of punishing any mistake with extreme prejudice and finishing power that's ended careers. Hooker's analysis brilliantly highlights the immense tactical and mental test awaiting Paddy. This shifts the pre-fight narrative from inevitable upset to genuine toss-up, showcasing that the fight could realistically go either way depending entirely on Paddy's composure and decision-making under the most intense pressure of his career.
Nah, I don't think it's the favor I would have him. Gaethje's takedown defense is pretty sharp. I don't see him, I don't know, like we just haven't seen like Paddy in there get in there that often and mix it up with the best guys in their prime. So it's a big opportunity for him.
But get this response from Justin himself. Gaethje admits with a subtle smirk that reveals his inner confidence. He candidly expects a fight full of raw aggression and unbridled hunger from Paddy. He even draws a parallel to past opponents like Michael Johnson, predicting that he might get rocked or hurt early in the fight. But here's the kicker that shows exactly why Justin's so dangerous. He firmly believes his unwavering grit, sheer tenacity, and vast experience surviving wars will ultimately carry him through whatever storm Paddy brings. His focus is crystal clear. Survive Paddy's inevitable early onslaught, maintain absolute composure during the chaos, and capitalize precisely when opportunities arise. This interview exposes the intense mental warfare happening behind the scenes. Both fighters are supremely confident, but Justin's subtle signals reveal that he absolutely won't be overwhelmed by crowd support, social media hype, or pre-fight psychological games. What's really fascinating is how Justin's framing this as just another day at the office, while simultaneously acknowledging that Paddy represents a legitimate threat. This exchange sets the stage for an incredibly high-intensity clash, where experience, strategy, and mental toughness become the absolute key factors for victory on fight night.
He's, with his aggression and his hunger, I think it's going to be same as every other Michael Johnson type fight where I might get rocked a couple times, but my grit and tenacity and will to win is going to, overcome. So I'd rather, he wants both bonuses. That's the difference between age. Now I just want one bonus, performance of the night.
Now let's break down the numbers because they tell a fascinating story that nobody's really discussing. Paddy consistently lands high-volume strikes while maintaining a positive differential, meaning he significantly outstrikes his opponents while taking minimal damage in return. Gaethje, on the other hand, often shows the complete opposite approach, willingly absorbing tremendous punishment to dish out his own devastating damage. This immediately frames the matchup as a classic striker versus grappler dynamic, but with a crucial twist that changes everything. Paddy definitely has legitimate opportunities on the feet, showcasing creativity and technical striking that could genuinely trouble Justin. However, the stark reality that analysts keep coming back to is that a single, clean, crushing shot from Gaethje could realistically end the fight in an instant or dramatically alter Paddy's entire game plan and confidence level. The statistical analysis reveals an incredibly delicate balance. Paddy's creativity, speed, and volume could give him a slight edge in extended exchanges, but Justin's raw, devastating power, relentless forward pressure, and undeniable knockout capability make him a constant, ever-present threat every single second they're standing. This emphasis on timing, precision, and sheer resilience promises to deliver a brutal, unforgettable war that could end at any moment.
Matchup. Paddy has a pretty high strikes landed per minute and a positive differential, which is always great, and whereas Gaethje has the opposite of that. He does not. That stands out. I mean, this is not super complicated to break down for the most part. It's striker versus grappler. Now, like any modern striker versus grappler fight, Paddy does have an opportunity on the feet in certain respects, but it just seems like if he catches a big one, that might end it, or at a bare minimum, just changes.
Max Holloway. Here's the reality check everyone needs to hear. Max Holloway, ever the blunt truth teller, cuts straight to the point with zero sugarcoating. He reminds everyone that the fight people were really talking about with Ilia Topuria isn't happening right now. Instead, we're getting Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett, and Holloway emphatically warns that this is absolutely no walk in the park for the Liverpool native.
I mean, the fight not happening. It's Justin or Paddy now. Paddy got to get past Justin. Justin's a tough fight, bro. I don't know. A lot of people sleeping on Justin. on the Paddy part, which just makes me ridiculous.
Pimblett is better than a lot of people think he is, you know, because of his haircut and the way he talks. And when I fought him, he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. He's got long reach, good kicks, pretty darn patient and composed in there. But Gaethje's a whole different animal. So if I had to bet, I'd go Justin Gaethje, interim champion, and then
I think the key to the fight for Gaethje is just to create a lot of volume against someone like Paddy, like a lot of volume. The leg kick's going to be everything to take away Paddy's lead leg to stop the onslaught. But like Paddy makes a lot of mistakes, right? So like he's susceptible to getting knocked out. But he's great in the scrambles, like amazing at scrambles and also amazing at creating them. If Justin had a weakness, like if I said, hey, Justin, we want to attack him here, make sure, it would be his jiu-jitsu. He has a